بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum. So, inshallah, we will continue our stories in Quran, and as you would remember, we've been taking a different approach, different perspective when reading these Quranic verses. Instead of reading them as stories that can teach us some morals or some teachings, but inherently being stories about someone else, for instance, some historical characters. We've been trying to read them as stories of ourselves. So rather than taking the characters there as some other people or some other person, we've been trying to read verses as the character is at least in one aspect of me. If not like completely me, but one aspect of me, one state of mind sometimes I have, maybe. So today, inshallah, we will start with a new story of ourselves again. So we will discuss the staff of Moses. Moses, he's a very, let's say, famous prophet, even like just inside from a Quranic perspective. We have a lot of verses talking about, giving us some stories about Moses, and even some stories are repeated several times within different contexts from different perspectives. So he's a person, he's a prophet that definitely needs to be studied. So Quran tells us that you have to study Moses. So we will study two different stories from Quran regarding the Moses. One would be a story in the desert with the children of Israel, and the other story would be Moses versus the Pharaoh, or Moses versus magicians. So in both cases, we will see the staff of the Moses as a central character in the story. And again, we will try to read the verse in a way which speaks directly to ourselves. In my case, directly talking to me. So let's start with the first part, inshallah. And it will be about water, free water, for some thirsty people. Okay? And maybe a little bit background. So, living in, So living under the oppression of Pharaoh, I'm just giving this historical account as narrated in Quran, but again we will try to read it in our time. Living under the oppression of the Pharaoh, the children of Israel had terrible times, and then with the help of Moses they escaped. They somehow saved, and they end up in desert, where they had some difficulties finding water, finding food, and so on. And interesting, as narrated in Quran, our Creator talks about the favors, talks about the sustenance that being bestowed on over children of Israel, and in return it always responded by neglect, or what is the right word? Oblivions?
Unthankful.
Ungratefulness. Yes, actually this is the word being used in Quran as well. Like, you've been ungrateful, you've been ungrateful. And so this story starts with they living in the desert and having difficulty finding the water. And then Moses somehow, with a miracle, come up with water. So trying to read this story, of course, for ourselves in our time, the question is, like, why Quran is talking about a desert? Why Quran talking about having difficulty finding the water, being saved from the oppression and so on? Because I'm not living in desert, at least literally speaking. And alhamdulillah, I'm not having any difficulty finding water. My friend Yusuf just drank some water. So anyway, it's like abundantly available in my world, in my life. So then the question is, what is really meant in Quran with having difficulty finding the water or being thirsty, living in desert? So I guess the first question comes to my mind is, what we really need, just like water, in the desert of our life. So that's the question, like, what do we need most? Just like water. Any ideas? No, it should be personal, like, don't be ashamed of being personal.
I feel like human companionship.
Exactly,
Like
human
even the
companionship,
baby,
yes.
like, right? We talk about people wanting to play with the babies and things like that, being able to touch and interact with other people.
Especially in a modern society, right? We, despite living in a crowd, most of the time we have difficulties. Exactly, phones, some other stimuli, always, taking our eyes to somewhere else, and we having difficulty having any kind of communication with people, which hurts us, definitely hurts us. Companionship.
I guess in general, happiness.
Happiness.
And although with all the things that we have, we are trying to achieve happiness, but if you ask, are we happy? Increasing the wealth, does it increase our happiness? Although we are pursuing happiness, maybe we are not there at all.
I guess for her, all she needs some compassion, some care. Well, without them, she cannot live, definitely. So she needs them so much. And I guess the question is, does it then change any when we get older? Like, can we live without compassion? Can we live without care? So I'm thinking myself, well, the answer is clear no. Like, as soon as I imagine myself without my family, without my friends, the life sounds so terrible, like it seems so terrible. Just like being lost in a desert. If there is no love, no compassion around me, I'm just in the middle of desert. Doesn't matter I'm living in Philadelphia or in, I don't know, Bangladesh or another country, city. Doesn't matter. What about you, Abdurrahman?
Purpose, meaning in life.
Would you like a little bit?
Like, I want to have a reason for why I exist, why things happen, rather than just you live and die. I need much more than that.
I guess we experience this most when you go to your workplace or your classes. Like, if there's no reason to do the task, it's really hard to do it, right? And I guess in the same way as we live, when we ask the question, like, what is the purpose, why I'm living? What is the reason I'm not just ending my life right now? Some people choose to do it. Why not me? So I have to have a reason. Without reason is without purpose. Let's say it's so harmful, like painful.
Actually, while talking about life, I want to live actually, but it feels like, for example, today, 8 hours I was at work. I just come out of work, 8 hours is gone, and it's just gone. Did I live this 8 hours? It was just something that had to pass, and it passed. As I am living a life apparently, but if you ask me, are you living? Do you hold of any sort of life in your hands? No. As if I am in the middle of sea of life, but I don't hold any single ounce of water in my hands, as if I am in a desert.
This is a really good example actually, because like if you are middle of the sea, and if water is not helping you, you are in the desert, because what is left from sea when you take off the water is just the sand.
The salt.
Yeah, with the salt. Yeah, exactly. So I guess this is the way we live our lives, right? Like we need all these things, but nothing around us helps us. Nothing around us can provide what we need. Sometimes we, try to get what we need from our friends, and we see them, they're as important as we are. They cannot. We try to get it from some ideologies. They cannot. They're as dry as, desert. Some people claim to find solutions. Some group of, schools, they claim to find solutions, but they cannot help us. They cannot provide the compassion we need. After all these equations of the universe, after all these claims of like theory of everything, theory of X, theory of Y, what we have, nothing, just something dry as sense. I just received, probably you may also have received an email from our president at Penn about how wellness is so important now. People, I guess, started to see that, just being efficient, just, having high grades, so it's not enough, it's not good enough. So we have to feel this wellness somehow. So I was so amazed, like in the email it was saying that we have this program of multidimensional holistic. I was so surprised, like when people became multidimensional and holistic, just before then, I remember people just being, body. A human person was just a bunch of atoms. I was surprised, like when I became a multidimensional being. So, alhamdulillah, at least, people start to appreciate, started to accept that there's this multidimensionality, there's this holistic approach. Of course, still, if I try to publish, let's say, saying that human beings are a multidimensional entity, of course it will be rejected, but at least in the workplace, when it comes to efficiency, we are multidimensional beings. So anyway, when we try to find these answers around, within the system we live, it's just a desert, nothing. So being in such deserted life, let's say, and I'm asking for water, I'm dying for water, and what happens? So let's listen what Quran tells, how our Creator tells our story in Quran. Any volunteer would you like to, maybe Arabic version?
وإذ استسقى موسى لقومه فقل نضرب بعصاك الحجر فانفجرت منه 12 عينا قد علم كل أناس مشربهم كلوا واشربوا من رزق الله ولا تعثوا في الأرض مفسدين. And remember when Moses prayed for water for his people, and we replied, strike the rock with your staff. Whereupon 12 springs gushed forth from it, so that all the people knew whence to drink. And Moses said, eat and drink the sustenance provided by Allah, and do not act wickedly on earth by spreading corruption.
Thank you.
Chapter 2, verse 16. Yeah.
So, this is the part of the story that we will study today, inshallah. That's the intent. So, this is the 60th surah verse from, I am, from the verse Baqarah. And it starts almost from 40s, I guess, end of the 30s. But this is the part I really enjoy. So let's study, inshallah. So it's like a from beginning to end. It's an interesting verse. Like we need water, and Quran tells us that go to the rock. Strike the rock with your staff. So I know, like maybe from a historical account, yes, it was a miracle. It's Moses, a prophet. So maybe for him it's not a contradiction. It's not strange. But for me, when I look for a solution, when I look for water, the rock, I guess, the last object or last, the door, I don't know. Right? But still, Quran says, okay, strike the rock. So it starts with a prayer when Moses prayed for water. And we talk about, we need water. We are living in a desert of the life. We need water. But he says, Moses prayed for water. And I guess we should take this prayer in maybe a broader sense. It doesn't have to be, I'm just raising my hands and asking for the water. But even by the state of being thirsty, I'm in a prayer. Because I'm in need, and the only source that can sustain my need is the Creator. Even if I deny this, there's a relationship between me and my Creator, just by the state of being in need. So I'm in constant prayer, just because I'm in need of something. And as we said, so there is this contrast between water and rock. So we need water, but it comes from rock. So that's really strange when you first read it. But then when you think about your life, think about the things that you enjoy, where they come from. And first and foremost, water literally comes from rock. Not always, but in some occasions. Like from the mountains, for instance. There are literally, examples that water gush forth from rock. But also, metaphorically speaking, like most of the things we have in life, it's from unexpected places. Like you walk on the street, you see a homeless, he needs money, and you happen to be having some, let's say, extra money. But the question, who cares about a stranger? Why should I spare or waste my money for a stranger? If you look from, quote unquote, an objective perspective, why should I, give my money to a stranger? But for some reason, out of nowhere, I feel pity. The feeling, I have no control, definitely. I didn't choose to put the feeling in me. But for some reason, I feel pity. And I start thinking that, yes, I have extra money, and it doesn't belong to me. It was given to me so that I can share all these strange ideas. and I happen to giving the money to homeless people. So the source of the money, like in this example, me, I'm just a rock for this stranger. I'm nobody. Like, why should I care about him? Or why, in the first place, this stranger should ask money from me? I'm nobody for him. But for some reason, this strange relationship between us is established, and I'm giving the money to him. So the water that he needs comes from a rock, myself, and it's somehow sustained. Like, I guess it's the same even with very intimate relationships, like the baby and her mother. Like, how can you explain that my wife taking all this pain to carry a stranger, to carry a baby she doesn't even know? What if she doesn't like her? What if she's, I don't know. Like, when you start thinking, it's so strange, isn't it? But at the same time, this is something, happens all the time. This compassion for baby that she needs, or he needs, it's given from a rock.
And it happens more when she interrupts your sleep throughout the night.
Yes.
But does it happen if your neighbor's daughter does it? So it's interesting. Like the same rock, my daughter, she cries and I sacrifice my sleep. If from the other side of the wall the same voice comes, I don't. So if it's a matter of voice, or if it's whatever it is, in a certain case, water gushes forth from this rock.
Like, going into more detail, the same example, this baby needs milk. And it needs to be clean, it needs to be nutritious and so on. And it comes from part of the body, which is very close to, the blood which carries all these terrible stuff in us, all this dirty stuff. So it's like next to each other, dirt and cleanness. A piece of meat giving the nutrition that she needs. Again, water coming from rock. In our example, we need water where it comes from. Where does water come from?
Faucet, it's metal.
Faucet, metal. But let's say in general, sky. Like, isn't it even funny that water coming from the sky? Like, out of almost nowhere. But it's nothing but compassion, it's nothing but rahmah coming out of sky. It's like, is there any saying in English as well, like coming out of sky? When something is...
They call it out of the blue.
Blue, right? Okay. In Turkish, it's out of sky. So it's like literally coming out of the sky.
I guess it would be interesting if water, we would feel surprised if water was gushing forth from trees and apple was falling from sky. Because this is not the habit we have been observing,
Exactly.
so we would be surprised. But just reverse the
Not to mention
two.
that would be like hail, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't like hail coming down.
But still the same thing, right?
Exactly. Just because, we're used to it, we think, water coming from is, let's say, natural, but water coming from rock is strange. So this is a miracle, but the mother feeding her baby is not miracle, as if. Water coming from sky is not miracle, again, as if. But I guess what Quran is trying to do here, like showing us this contrast, is that this is your life. Aren't you aware of? Everything, every sustenance you get, it's out of a rock. For every sustenance, if you think, you will see there's a rock there giving you this sustenance, apparently. So, even something more interesting now. Strike the rock with your staff, and water will come. Like striking the rock with your staff. It's so, like, to me it's interesting because I would expect, let's say, dig a hole and there will come water. Because this is what I used to, right? But Quran says, no, what you need will come if you strike the rock with your staff. So let me give you a contrasting example. I'm not sure if it will be visible or not, but so this is, let's say, the opposite of striking the rock to get the water. This is how we used to get water. Oops. Obviously we cannot get it.
That's how we got water?
Let's watch. Something happens, something other happens, it triggers one thing, it triggers another thing.
Oh wait, there's water. Nice. Okay.
Here comes water. Okay?
Wait, now I'm gonna go back to the beginning because this is like all just to water the plant.
So, exactly. So this is how we most of the time see the life, right? When we need something, what we do, we invoke or put the equations, all these different causal relationships. We need a purpose, for instance, in our life. We start building a causal relationship. Oh, I am alive because, my father gave me, my mother gave me birth, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. Here I am. And my purpose is defined by, my past. Or we ask the question, how a baby can exist, and how a baby can, come to life. And then, because of our education, we say, all these atoms come together, and there was a big bang at the very beginning, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. Here comes a baby. So think about anything, any answer you give for anything in the life. It will be always a causal relationship. This happens and then that happens. And oops. Okay. It's not that visible, but anyway. So when we try to explain life, when we try to explain the sustenance we have, like how I have this compassion, my question, for instance, why I am feeding, helping this homeless guy. What is the reason, why I'm wasting my money for a stranger? The answer would be, this is so simple, Birkan, there's no mystery there. Like, once upon a time there was a big bang. And then, this is like, it's funny, yes, exactly. But this is the answer we receive. Once upon a time, there was a big bang. And then this universe was formed. And then this happened, that happened, our planet was formed. And then all these equations, all this machinery of life, right, working behind the scene, and through this evolutionary process, like we happen to develop this sense of helping. It helps us our survival, it helps us with our society, whatever. So these are the reasons that you are feeding the poor guy. But Quran says, no, don't look for the water, like behind the mountains or something. So strike the stone with your staff. Strike this relationship between you and the homeless with your staff. Staff means something special, we will discuss. And then you will find your explanation there. So it will be right there, right in the moment. So the rock is there, you crash the rock and you get the water. The problem is there, you crash it with the staff of Moses, a special staff, and you will find your answer. And then the question is like what we mean with the staff of the Moses. So what I understand from the staff of Moses in the entire Quran, it's been used in different places, but I guess the staff of Moses represents something specific, which is the mindset of a prophet, or let's say the Quranic wisdom. It's the road of the prophethood. Like when you look at the problem from a Quranic perspective, Quranic wisdom, you're hitting the problem with the staff of Moses. So when you ask the question why I am feeding this homeless guy, Quran will tell you, wait a second, your feeling doesn't belong to you, I am creating it. The money doesn't belong to you, I am creating it. The pity you have, it's I am creating it. So everything right in the moment is being linked to the Creator. And through these links, we know about our Creator. So for instance, I know that my Creator is a compassionate one because He creates a compassionate relationship between me and these homeless people. So it's not about what happened before, it's not about what will happen in future, it's about right in the moment. Hit the rock with your staff and you will see what you need there. The Quranic wisdom, when we use it properly in our life, it will give us the water we need from the rock, from the places that we expect least. Well,
So if we apply this to I'll just reiterate what I understood. So if we apply this to the example of milk and the breast, let's say. So if we ask how does this milk is formed, then we will say, well, it is made by breast, which is made by billions of years of evolutionary process, which is started with Big Bang, so on and so forth. This would be as if how we will try to bring water. I guess in this case, water is being like, how does this happen? I'm trying to come up with a meaningful answer to this question. But Quranic perspective would be like at the hand of a messenger, you take a simple tool as a stick, like a staff. And you hit, you ask the question to the breast, can you truly make water? Because make milk in this case. So in order to, I guess last year we were discussing this causal relationship. So because mercy is required to cook such a brilliant food, but we look at the breast, it is just a bunch of atoms tied together. It doesn't have the mercy, it doesn't have the caring in there. So therefore, within, just not going one step further, right there, we say that the breast cannot be the doer of this milk. I don't need to go any further, because since this cannot be, then there must be someone who is merciful, that is making the milk, who is not the breast itself. So right there, I get the answer that I was looking for, I guess, which now becomes the water in this metaphor.
Exactly. So you need meaning in life, and Quranic wisdom or staff of Moses hit everything in front of you, and then water gush forth. Because everything you look, everything you interact with Now we'll tell you about the Creator. Now we'll tell you about the qualities of the Creator. You walk in a cold day, you get, cold, which is unpleasant. And you need, the heat, you need warm. You ask a question like, what kind of life I'm living and it's cold. Like, I don't like cold. And then you take the staff of Moses, hit the cold with it, and it tells you, don't you see like what it means being cold? You're feeling cold. Like you have this ability to feel. You are not like a chair. It cannot get cold, but you can get cold. You can feel. The air around you talks to you. You know about the temperature of the air. You have this interaction, you have this relationship with the air. This relationship between you and the other things are established, created. You can touch, you can see, you can hear. All these, the faculties you have. The air, cold air tells me. When I hit cold air with the staff of Moses. When I ask how it is being created. When I ask how I am being created, these are the answers comes from the cold. You can feel cold. And then you enjoy cold, dislike cold. That means you like, you dislike. Just another dimension you have. Like you start learning about your humanity. You start learning of how weak you are, how needy you are. And then how much sustenance you received so far, despite you've been always such needy. You even get, trouble from a cold air. You are such needy, but you, in my case, you are 38 years old and alive. All the sustenance you need so far, sustained. And then, life becomes more and more warm for me. Air is still cold, but it's warm inside. Because I am being taken care of all the time. I am being taken care of right now because I was feeling bad, but then these answers start coming to me. I am being talked. One of the name of the Creator is like the one who talks, right? He explains. Mutakallim. So I am, knowing about the mutakallim, the one who speaks, the one who explains things. He's always with me. So life becoming warm. Warmed coming out of cold. When I hit the cold with the staff of Moses, the warmth I need gush forth from it.
So to observe the mercy in cold, I don't need to say, well, cold is needed because snow will come and in the spring the fruits will come. This is why cold is actually merciful. Not directly, but indirectly.
Yeah.
This is not the method of Moses.
Exactly.
Moses will hit the cold and find the mercy in cold right there.
Yeah. Moses wouldn't, establish all these puzzles and trigger one thing, it will trigger another thing, it will trigger another thing, and give water for you. No, he would hit the cold with his staff, and warmth would come out of cold right that moment. So the mercy I need, the compassion I need, when you think, when you hit with the chronic wisdom, comes right out of there. Out of the moment, out of the object that you are interacting with.
So I'm finding myself just thinking about Hagar and Safa and Marwa and the story of Zamzam. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Because you're talking about the striking and the water and this process. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, just that, like, I mean, ultimate is the baby's heel, right? Also, it kind of comes from that, but it's after this, struggle and this kind of back and forth kind of process. I don't know why. Just
I guess like even with striking the rock, there is a process. Like we cannot deny the process. Like it's not like you look at the rock and then water comes.
it's also that like the searching and the anxiety
Exactly.
and the
Praying. It starts
yes,
with prayer.
the praying and
Yes. But I guess the point is the answer comes from the rock itself. It's not like you take the rock, use it for something, and then that something, and then that for something. It comes out of there.
But even the Zamzam comes from present. It doesn't come from that hill. It doesn't
Yes.
come from this hill. Like in all those places, it just comes from.
Exactly. So one example, maybe like I'm giving these extreme examples to, make it more, let's say, challenging, just heat up the discussion. A beloved one passes away, and then you feel this urge of anger or sometimes sadness, and you are not pleasant. Like you are not in a pleasant mood, definitely. You're not happy with it. And there is nothing wrong with this, like as we know from our beloved Prophet, he used to cry when he lost his family. But I'm trying to make sense of it, like someone I love is dead. And I can just, easily say that, oh yes, we came from God, we will go to Him back. It helps, but still the question is still there. This feeling is still there. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that, she is gone or he is gone. What I'm going to do, right? And then I take the staff of Moses, hit the feeling. And again, the feeling tells you that, wait a second, like this feeling is not because you lost someone, or it's not because, something happened inside you created it, or the lost one created it. No, the feeling itself also from someone. Whoever, quote unquote, killed the one who loved, and whoever created you also put the feeling in you. So feeling, you cannot take it for granted. Feeling is also being created in you. And everything created so far, at least from your experience, have a reason, have a message for you. The creation, entire creation is a speech of your creator, right? So try to listen this feeling, what it tells you. It's a messenger in you. And this feeling of sadness tells you that, you have me because you think the one that just passed away is gone. Your mother, no more. This is what you are thinking. And when you think that way, Creator sends you the sadness, telling you, this is not the case. I don't want you, have this idea. Your mother, your father, whoever you was, he's with me, she's with me. She's not gone. She had some duties in this life. Now she's free from these duties. So this sadness tells me something good about my mother. Something happy about my mother. once I, acknowledge that this feeling is also created in me, trying to tell me something, that my creator is not happy, let's say, with the fact that I'm thinking that she's gone. So I know that she's not gone. So out of this sadness, I find sustenance. I found the thing I need most. Knowing that my mother still exists, let's say. She's not gone. Any other examples? Any other, I don't know, let's say objections or questions or comments? The parts you don't like? I'm just a human being. Most of the things I say probably is wrong. So try to get, if there's any small truth in it. But in a nutshell, this is what I understand when Quran tells me strike the rock with your staff. Whatever you see there, try to see the sustenance in it.
So, in summary, per Quran's teaching, prophetic method approach is to see the mercy, see the message within the things themselves, not after a long chain of, not bringing the water from behind the mountains, but extracting water from wherever you are. And whatever you call as water, because we said it might be happiness, it might be peace, it might be like loneliness might be the problem, or it might be just this company. So where am I going to find this company in life? So is it going to be a human going to accompany me? So I guess all these sorts of questions, if I approach it from Quran's perspective, the way Quran teaches me, I will need to find the answers within the problem itself, not going after long chains and say that, yeah, God exists because there was Big Bang. No, right there, look at the baby and see that there must exist a creator of this baby here. There must exist a source and eternal source for the mercy in me, so on and so forth.
Exactly. So thinking of, speaking of problems, I remember recently I had a tough day and I was really sad. It was, let's say, a failure in the workplace. Alhamdulillah, big failure. It was really a good one. Alhamdulillah. So anyway, I came to home. I'm so sad. So I'm trying to find the mercy. Because this is what I need, right? Because without mercy, I cannot live. I'm trying to find the mercy in this failure. And all these, the answers comes to my mind, which resembles the video that I showed. Yeah, Birkan, you failed, but you will have some lessons out of it. It will become a strength for you. In the next project, you will use them. The project will become better and better. This is all the time we receive such answers, right? Success, like a guidance from successful people. Try to learn from your failure. And nothing wrong with such answers, let's say, within itself. But still, I cannot see mercy in the failure still. I need it right now. What am I going to do? Am I going to just, wait and pretend I am patient, or sleep maybe, wait for time pass? I'm looking for the mercy. And in this mindset, when you accept that you need mercy, your hands raises almost, automatically, right? You need mercy. You asking mercy, like never before. You have this communication, you have this moment with your creator like never before. And you start feeling something you never felt before. You are not alone. You're speaking to someone. When I was thinking, when I thought I failed, it was not the failure making me sad. It was being alone among, in the middle of this failure. Nobody was supporting me. Nobody was caressing, my hair and telling me, don't worry. Now I have this absolute creator, in his hand the power of everything, listening to me. Once you realize this, there's no failure anymore. Alhamdulillah. It's like the thing I called as failure before itself is a success for me. Because it opened the gate for something I need the most. Being with my creator, being with someone who listens me all the time, taking care of me all the time. And I'm in his presence now. So when you hit this failure with the staff, the failure itself gives you the water you need, gives you the success you need. And alhamdulillah, after this experience, every time I have, a failure, I say, oh yeah, it's a good moment. Try to enjoy it. Because through this failure, even if you, try to postpone it, you will not be able to postpone it asking for mercy. You will ask for mercy, and it will give you the pleasure. So the mercy, or let's say success, comes out of the failure itself. So it continues as, whereupon 12 springs gushed forth from it. So not even one, 12. Alhamdulillah. 12 springs. So what do you understand? Any ideas? I'm not claiming, giving the interpretation of the verse. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to read the verse from my perspective, and when I ask, what do you think it means, 12 spring, I just asking, what you understand from 12 springs.
I feel like, from what you're saying is it's the inclusive dua. It's not just the personal dua, right? And that the response of it for it is individualized for everyone's needs. So it's not just one thing and one size fits all, but exactly what each party that was considered needs.
Exactly. From the same experience, everybody takes his or her own share.
I don't know why I'm also thinking, I used to go to this halakha in Virginia, and I always ask which day was it that they made this dua, that within a couple of months, half the halakha got married. 6 people got married. And then there was no halakha after that. No one came anymore. It was which day did they make the dua? And they all got what they needed.
Any other ideas, any other comments? 12 spring.
It was 12 because there was 12 tribes in Banu Israel. But if I go along, the theme for the halakha, I think what strikes me more is that each people knew where their spring is. So it's more like each one of us knows, what this rock means to them, and I think even if someone sort of tells you what it means to them, you won't see, like, you see nothing in it for you,
Yes,
so to,
yes,
so to
yes, yes.
speak. So you sort of have your spring, and it has meaning to you, and it's speaking to you, but like their spring is their spring. They have nothing to do with
Yes,
it.
yes, 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 definitely. I guess this is like maybe at the core of many struggles we have. Like when we have our spring and we taste it, we say, okay, it's so delicious, and we see someone else, benefiting from another spring. We say, wait a second, this is the one delicious one. Why don't you drink from the same spring? Accept my, comment. Accept my interpretation. Accept my truth. Any other comments for this one? I guess there's also another aspect of like, yes, we can think it as different people, different type of ideologies, but at the same time, when I look at myself, my needs also multiple. Like I have, going back to email, I have all these different dimensions. I need mercy, yes, that's true, but at the same time, I need wisdom. Without wisdom, mercy, it's just, what is it called, spoiled, being spoiled. Like if a parent just show compassion with no wisdom, we say, okay, the child will be spoiled. We don't like it. But at the same time, I like love. Like mercy without love, I cannot accept it. Beauty without wisdom, wisdom without beauty, I cannot accept it. Like I need all these different things. Sometimes I need also, sustain my physical body. So all these different dimensions of myself also being sustained from the same thing. I see wisdom there, I see love there, I see beauty there.
In the milk and baby relationship, I do see sustainer feeding the baby. I see sustainer manifesting mercy because baby is so close to the mother. I see wisdom in there because mother is also being educated with this interaction. Likewise, baby is being trained. So multiple things are happening within the same little action. So in a sense, if we translate it to, let's say, more a religious context, multiple names of the Creator is being observable within a single spot. So it's like maybe a simple apple over a tree. I do observe wisdom, I do observe love, caring, providing, mercy, all at once in a single spot. So depending on what I need more, if today I am feeling very in need of mercy, let's say, when I look at the tree, and actually once this happened, a friend asked, today I heard the birds are singing. I don't understand their language. What do they say? He said. So he texted this to a group. And I said, oh my friend, they are saying that don't worry about anything. Look at us. Are we worried about anything? Just the birds are singing their song. They are saying that we have such a provider. We have no worries. So we simply sing every morning. Like humans are trying to stack money. Does birds try to stack food? Every morning they wake up, they find their sustenance by the end of the day, they sleep, tomorrow morning start from scratch. So they say, don't worry. There's a sustainer, there's a provider who is also taking care of you, so no worries. So if today I am depressed, this is what birds will tell me. If tomorrow it's something else, same bird is going to tell me a different thing. So I guess the springs are different, meanings are going to come from the same rock. Meaning that they are not from the rock, but with the prophetic wisdom, if you approach the rock with prophetic wisdom, you will see multiple different sources of water in there.
Mm-hmm. And this multiplicity is so important that Like when we ask a question about our life or about the universe or like anything, most of the time we receive answers which only like corresponding just one spring. One answer would be, for instance, lots of equations in front of me. This is your life, Birkan. I will look at them. If I can understand, I have the education, I would say, why they are so elegant, so wise, right? All these equations. I will see wisdom then, I will benefit, but I will say, that's not enough, like, it's not enough, I'm a human being. Only wisdom is not enough for me. I need more springs. So another answer will come and tell me, oh yes, we have this spiritual, aspect, we should, feed our spirituality and so on. I would say, yes, okay, you're talking about spirituality, but what about, other aspects of me? When Quranic wisdom comes, it feeds every need of ours. Not only wisdom, not only spiritual life, not only X, not only Y, but all 12 springs. As if, as you were saying, none of the tribes would be excluded. None of the tribes would be left alone without water.
None of the aspect of human.
Exactly. And then eat and drink the sustenance provided by Allah, Rizqullah. The emphasis here, it's to me it's really nice, really. I always use the word interesting because I don't know any other word, but when I say interesting, it means like it's attracting too much attention for me. It, giving me too much pleasure. Like we already started with prayer. The Moses asking water from God. And then water coming out of rock. It's a miracle. So God is everywhere in the equation, from the beginning to the end. But still, God tells me, eat and drink the sustenance provided by Allah. Not from someone else, not from something else. What you are drinking right now, it's provided by Allah. As if, I can forget after all these miracles. But the truth is, unfortunately, yes, I always forget. Just in the moment water comes out of the rock, I forget it's coming out of the rock and coming from my Creator. I mean, look at, just try to remember what you do when you're walking in a rainy day. You walk, you get wet. That's the only thing you get out of rain. Rain coming out of sky, out of mercy. Rahmah, mercy is raining down. Water is life for us, right? Life coming down from the skies. We enjoy it for a moment maybe, and then we just get wet. We forget right in the moment. I need food, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, like in the literal sense, and I happen to be sustained with the food, and may Allah forgive me. At the beginning, sometimes I say Bismillah, but while eating the food, I already forgot where this food come from. I already, ignore. Eat just like animal. And then finish. Once everything finish, I remember because it's gone. I'm talking about myself. Please don't get any wrong ideas. Like, anyway, I'm talking about myself. When I consume the food, I remember the emptiness and realize the emptiness. I say, I remember, oh yeah, it was, given to me from God. I say Alhamdulillah. But between them, I have no thinking. I have no, appreciation, anything. Water comes from the rock. I say, wow, Alhamdulillah, I'm happy, and then I forgot right away. So this always reminds me a joke. I don't know if I shared it before. Maybe someone else shared it in this circle. I don't remember. Sorry. Someone looking for a parking spot, like a driving car looking for a parking spot. Because he's needy, he starts praying. Oh God, please give me a parking spot. Like I have to, catch a meeting or something. And then he finishes the prayer, he sees a parking spot and says, oh God, don't worry, I found it.
And then he's about to pull in, so he's gonna back
Exactly. So when we have the water, when we are in the middle of the water enjoying it, we don't need anyone else. We don't need our sustainer anymore. We forget where it comes from. But God says, the one who knows everything, the one who knows everything about us, He says, eat and drink sustenance provided by Allah. Don't forget it.
So this happens to me a lot. Living in university city, parking is an issue. And each time I am turning the corner, before I turn the corner, I say, oh Allah, give me an easy parking spot. And He gives, but I don't notice. Maybe 10-15 minutes later, sometimes I catch up myself saying that you asked for it and it's given, but you didn't even notice that it was given. So I simply forgot right at the spot. And even
I found it
or when it is
you didn't do
given,
alhamdulillah when you found it.
and when I find it, I start reasoning about it and say that, well, this guy left and I entered. It's not that God created a parking spot out of the blue. Like somebody went out and I get in. It was not like this much of a space was just extended so that I fit in. It didn't happen like this. So I would call it a miracle, maybe. But since somebody left out, I went in. So nothing about God in here. It's just by chance somebody left, I went in. I guess in here, in the example of this miracle, well, stone, yes, maybe the Moses where he hit the staff, water was not that much deep. It was on the surface. So, and Moses hit it, yeah, I saw it was still not very soft. He did it a little bit strong. And water comes out of stone, yeah. So nothing about God, man, really. It was just chance.
So Moses was a strong big guy.
Yeah, he was a strong guy.
Yeah, we always have our justifications in life. Always. Like I was sick, now alhamdulillah I'm healthy. Why? Because I slept enough. If I took some medicine, I took some medicine. At the end, yes, alhamdulillah, I am healthy. But all these justifications in my mind all the time. And alhamdulillah, out of mercy, as always, our Creator says, eat and drink from rizq, sustenance of Allah. Reminding us. And I guess this is the maybe last part with these words. We still have like a 15 minutes, I guess, but there's second part of the staff of Moses, but I don't want to start it today. Let's end with this part. And do not act wickedly on the earth by spreading corruption. again, if I think maybe in the context, in the historical context, it has its place. These people will probably spread some corruption in the world, on the earth. But when it comes to myself, when I read it, why Creator is talking about the sustenance He provides, sustenance that He provides out of the rock, sustenance that He provides out of the rock after I pray, and then spreading corruption on the earth. What is it that, there must be something with me that needs to be corrected, let's say, cultivated, and it should be related to the sustenance. And He's, again, out of mercy, warning me, telling that don't spread corruption on earth. What do you think? Like, what comes to your mind when we talk about corruption? Let's start from there. How we people spread corruption on earth?
First by being ungrateful.
Exactly.
You eat and drink from the earth, and then you corrupt the earth, so you basically, it's like, we have a proverb like there's like it's like an Arab proverb, but we use it a lot in Morocco. It's like bite in the hand that feeds you, basically.
We have something similar in Turkish,
yeah.
yes.
So I think it's kind of the same concept.
This gratefulness, ungratefulness, I guess it's really, really so important. And first and foremost, it's almost everywhere in the Quran. It's everywhere in the verses like preceding this one, before this one. When our Creator talks about the children of Israel, He says, don't you remember we gave you this, we saved you from Pharaoh, and then you've been ungrateful. Don't you remember the time we sent you these commands, we taught you this and that, but when Moses left you, you've been ungrateful. It's always being ungrateful, always being ungrateful. And as you would remember when we were discussing the story of Adam and Satan. Satan was telling that, okay, you will find most of them ungrateful. Other day I was reading some passages from Imam Ghazali. He was saying, it's an interpretation of Surah Al-Fatiha. He was saying, Surah starts with Rahman, Rahim, continues with Rahman, Rahim, considering the Bismillah Rahman Rahim as the first verse. And then it continues with the Rahman and Rahim. He says, indeed, this mercy, the compassion of, let's say, Rahman, Rahman, is at the crux of Quranic teaching. And gratefulness, which is the counterpart of this in human, is the most important, the faculty sense of the human being. Without gratefulness, we cannot understand anything about these are my words, like what I understood from his interpretations. I cannot remember word by word, but this is what I understood, being grateful is at the core. It's at the core of the religion, it's at the core of understanding your Creator, at the core of being pleased with your Creator and so on. Hamd. Yes. So I totally agree. Spreading corruption, I guess first and foremost related to being ungrateful. And when we be ungrateful, the things we do, we say, you know what, everything happens by itself. I found this parking spot, because, as you said, somebody else left. I have this laptop, which is almost a miracle, in front of me. I have it because of the technology. A piece of silicone, piece of plastic, piece of whatever. I have this, feeling of pleasure because I'm part of this halakha. But because you speak, people, love speaking. And then others speak, people love listening. All these, I'm sorry, but silly explanations. So-called, I don't know, sometimes people call it scientific, sometimes call it with something. But all these silly explanations. Being ungrateful. Denying the sustenance that I receive right now through my friends. Denying the sustenance I receive through this rock. Just denying, being ungrateful. Spreading corruption. I'm killing everything, around me. All the quote-unquote angel carrying all these messages through all these things happens around me. I'm just killing them by denying. No, there's no such thing. It happens by itself. It happens through causes. It happens. There's a natural law. I just killed billions of conscious beings.
So, by me denying that the parking spot was given to me, since this is my personal experience where I was given the opportunity to appreciate that there's a provider of parking spot. By denying this, when I see a sparrow eating a just crumble of bread, I would say, well, just somebody throw it there. There's no mercy.
It's trying to survive.
It is trying to survive, and it just happened to find it. It was not somebody purposefully put it there. Because if I see it as a sustainer feeding the bird, I would observe mercy in there, love in there. Somebody cared about this bird and just put this piece of bread in there. But to my perspective, it is like everything is by chance in life. So somebody by chance just dropped this piece of rice, and by chance bird happened to be there, and bird ate the food, and that's it. So I didn't observe any mercy in here. So I didn't see the water gushing forth, but instead my corruption is spread over the rest of the existence as well, because I myself am blind in my case. Therefore, I do not see mercy outside either. So in my perspective, the whole earth all becomes dark, because I am dark.
Exactly. So I guess there's a unbreakable connection. I'm trying to see. Anyway, there is an unbreakable connection between Rizqullah and Mufsidin, like spreading corruption. Because when you don't see it as Rizqullah, when you don't see it as sustenance, you automatically spread corruption on the earth. And I don't know if it would be a bold claim, but the corruption on the earth, taken any sense, you can take it as wars as well. You can take it as shedding blood as well, in the literal sense. Always has this ungratefulness at the core. Always has this being blind to sustenance of God.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm also thinking about that, the ingratitude on one level. I don't know, like when I see this eat, drink, and don't corrupt the earth. The image that comes to my mind is water bottles like clogging up the seas. Is that we do have this, we eat and we drink without a mindfulness, often, and not thinking, and then we're just, and I'm guilty.
Yes.
I'm completely guilty. And I know I shame sometimes people, but I shame myself too. So there's that ghafla, like you say, just not being mindful level, that has all the side effects, right? But that side effect isn't just created by the ghafla, it's by somebody else's greed who's creating an easy process that has a side effect, right? But then the other part of it is, I want to say, like, the greed and the hoarding that happens, right? So, you know, you want to make sure you have a parking spot, so then you get a sign, and then anyone else parks there, you get them towed, or something like this, so that you always have it, right? Or this water comes, right? Like even the Zamzam at one point was lost, right? Because when the tribes were like, okay, if we're not going to control the Zamzam, then they filled it with sand, and they just blocked it up, because if we're not in charge of it, then we don't want anybody to have it, right? So I mean, like, what is it that we as humans do with the blessings and the resources that we have, right?
Yes. Any other comments?
It looks like there's no middle ground, right? Either I am thankful and eat and drink as it is provided by Creator. If I don't, then I am falling on the other side of the spectrum. So it's not like I'm neutral.
So yeah, I'm not believing, or I don't see it sustenance of God, but I'm a good person.
Or even, let's say, I consider myself as a believer in general, but I'm not very conscious at every moment. So where does these unconscious moments are going to? Let's say I consider myself to be a believer for several years, but still, when I pray for the parking spot and take the parking spot by chance again, not by my Creator, what does happen to me? Although I am in general a believer, at that point actually I am a denier of the mercy, because I say it's coming by chance, it's not from the Creator, so I am covering it up. So I'm not a believer of mercy for that specific case. So what happens? It spreads. So I start just not being able to see other manifestations of mercy. When I am blessed with a beautiful daughter, I say, well, yeah, it's in our genes. Like my mother or her mother, whatever, were also beautiful. So I stop seeing the mercy in there, for instance. So it is really spreading.
And I think that's also, like, it goes back to your state, right? Because in one way of experiencing things, that means you're continuously having anxiety about the next parking space.
Yes.
Versus having security that I've always been taken care of, I've always been provided for, you know. And then what is your state? Are you anxious, or do you have taslim? Do you feel, content? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel, in that way then confident walking, through zero?
Very much.
Okay, inshallah, next week we will continue with the second part.
Magicians.
Again, continue with the staff of Moses. And this time we will use it against tyrants and magicians. So just a teaser for.
I feel like this
Next
is like
week.
in resume format. Like you're starting at the end and then you're going back to the first uses.
Yes.
Like the most recent and then go back to.
Should we conclude, inshallah?
Rahman is our concluder.
Okay, Abdurrahman, please go ahead.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.